All right, let's talk about what's coming next in AI. If you've ever used something like ChatGPT, you've seen an AI that can talk. But what happens when AI learns how to do things? Well, that's where we're headed, and we're about to dive into the next massive leap, AI agents.
So, to really get a handle on where we're going, let's just start with what we all know. For the last couple of years, our main way of interacting with AI has been through chatbots, right? You ask a question, you get an answer. But as you're about to see, that's just chapter 1 of a much bigger story.
Okay, so this slide really hits the nail on the head. A chatbot, which is powered by what's called a large language model, or LLM, well, it's a brilliant talker. It can write you a flawless email, it can whip up a marketing plan, it can summarize a super dense article, but it's all trapped inside that chat window. I mean, it can write that perfect email, but it literally can't press send. An agent, on the other hand, is an autonomous doer. It doesn't just talk, it takes action.
And that right there is the million-dollar question. What happens when this brilliant brain gets hands to actually interact with the digital world? This is the fundamental shift that has the entire tech world buzzing about agents, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack.
You know, to really wrap our heads around this, it's super helpful to think about AI capabilities in 3 distinct levels. This isn't just about the models getting bigger, it's about them getting smarter and way more capable in a really structured way.
And you can see it laid out pretty clearly here. The path to autonomy. It builds in these clear stages. We start at level 1 with the basic brain, the LLM. Then we move up to level 2 by giving that brain some specific tools to use. And finally, we get to level 3, the agent, which basically functions like an autonomous digital employee.
Level 1? That's pretty much the world we're all living in right now with AI. Think of ChatGPT. It's this incredible brain in a jar. It's been trained on a huge chunk of the public internet, so it can write and summarize like a genius. But it can't check your company's sales data or process a customer's refund, because it can't take any actions in the real world.
Now, at level 2, we give that brain some hands. We connect the LLM to specific tools, like a customer database or a payment system, through something called an API. An API is really just a way for different computer programs to talk to each other. So we can tell it, hey, when a customer asks for a refund, follow these exact 3 steps, and it can do that specific, predefined workflow. But here's the catch. If a new problem comes up that's not in the script, the whole thing just stops. It can't think on its feet.
And that is what brings us to level 3, the AI agent. This is where things get really wild. Think of it less like giving a set of instructions and more like hiring an employee. You give the agent a mission, like handle all customer refund requests, and you give it access to the tools it needs. From there, the agent figures out the steps on its own. It can plan, it can act, and it can even change its strategy if it runs into a problem. We're talking about the jump from just automating a task to actually delegating a responsibility.
Okay, so you might be wondering, how in the world does an agent actually think for itself? Well, it's not magic, but it is a pretty clever loop of reasoning and action that lets it tackle some really complex tasks.
One of the key methods here is called the ReAct approach, which combines reasoning and acting. And this illustrates the process perfectly. It all kicks off with a thought. This is literally the agent's internal monologue, like, first I need to find out this customer's order status. Then it takes an action by using one of its tools, like searching the customer database. Finally, it makes an observation based on the result. It sees the order has shipped. Based on that new information, it forms a new thought, like, okay, now I need to let the customer know. And that loop just keeps going until the job is done.
All right, this table is super useful for seeing how all these pieces fit together. You might have heard of a technique called RAG, which is basically giving an LLM a private library to look stuff up in, so it doesn't give wrong answers. We've also talked about tools, which let it actually do things. Well, an agent is the master system. It's the thing that uses that reasoning loop to combine RAG and tools and its own memory to automate a whole workflow, not just answer a single question.
Now, this whole thing isn't just some niche tech experiment. This new capability is driving a massive architectural change across the entire AI industry. A lot of people are calling it the agentic shift. I love this quote because it just nails it. The race to build one single, massive God model that knows absolutely everything, well, it's turning out to be super inefficient and basically unsustainable. The future isn't a bigger brain, it's a better team of brains working together.
And that idea leads directly to this huge change in architecture. We're moving away from the monolith, this one giant, super expensive model trying to do everything, to what's being called an agentic mesh.
In this setup, you have a whole network of smaller, specialized agents. One agent might be an expert at analyzing code, another at reading legal contracts, and you have a manager agent that directs each task to the right specialist. It's just way more efficient, scalable, and a lot easier to fix when something goes wrong.
And honestly, a huge reason for this shift comes down to plain old money. Back in 2024, the big cost was training these massive models. But by 2026, the vast majority of the cost of AI, we're talking nearly 2/3 of it, is going to be from inference, which is just the day-to-day cost of actually running the models. Using a giant all-powerful model for every simple task is like hiring a rocket scientist to do your filing. It's complete financial overkill.
Okay, so as hyped as all this sounds, let's pump the brakes for a second. Agents are not some magic wand. The technology is still really new, and it's so important to understand the challenges we're facing and the whole spectrum of what's possible right now.
We've got to be real about the hurdles. The first wave of agents, things like AutoGPT, they showed a ton of promise, but they also had a tendency to get stuck in loops, run up huge bills on API calls, and sometimes they just hallucinate or, make things up. They can also get distracted from their main goal if they don't have a good long-term memory. These are the exact engineering problems that teams are working to solve as we speak.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway. Autonomy isn't an all-or-nothing deal. It's a spectrum. This framework is a great way to see how we can design the level of human involvement. We can start with the user as an operator, where the agent is like a co-pilot. Then we can move to a collaborator, and then to a consultant, where the agent starts to take the lead. At level 4, the user is just an approver for the big decisions. And finally, at level 5, the user is basically just an observer. The point is, we get to choose the right level of autonomy for the job.
So let's bring this all home. This technology is moving out of the lab and into the real world. So I want you to think about your own day-to-day work. What's that one digital, repetitive task that just follows a clear set of rules? The one thing you would absolutely love to delegate and never have to think about ever again. Because I guarantee you, that's exactly where your first AI agent is going to show up.